It is the third day in the month of May 2021. And without further ado, this one says, "Good morning, Charles and God's love. Nigerian politicians will never change." Mr. Reno Omokri writing to the Pope about Reverend Father Mbaka. Are they telling Nigerians that we cannot talk when things are wrong? Oh Lord, help our people, from Wilfred from Upper Sokomba. Okay. Next message here says, "Dear presenters, the federal government should, as a matter of utmost urgency, set up a presidential task force on insecurity to brief Nigerians on the worsening insecurity issue in the country, just as is being done on COVID-19. Nigerians deserve to know what is happening in the country in terms of insecurity and what is being done by governments to remedy the situation." From Don Morgan. All right, Don Morgan, thank you for your contribution, or your submission, if you like. And this one says, "Good morning, KUFM. Why is it that rather than adhering to constructive criticism, we become petty by resorting to cheap blackmail and slander with regard to the response of the presidency to Reverend Father Mbaka? Even if at all there was a negotiation for a contract, which I'm skeptical about, but that is not the bone of contention now, as Nigeria is fast sinking, preparing monsters in posterity with regard to the neglect of youth. Even the blind man knows this current government has failed woefully. I do not know what Napoleon could not do that this government has done. My greatest joy is that no man lives forever, no matter your wealth and affluence." Nelson from Otote in Benin City. All right. And the next message here says, "Another university workers' industrial action should not be allowed to happen to avoid further setback." Ibrahim from Auchi Road. All right, Ibrahim. Apparently, the federal government missed the April deadline to settle the non-academic staff and Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, and that's why it looks like they may be heading for another strike within the university system. Remember, AAU in Benin, AAU in Edo State actually are on strike, by the way, just so you know. Okay, that's about it from the SMS line. Let's check out the WhatsApp line and see if anybody dropped any message there. Okay, all right. The messages there do not relate to the extra voices. Today we're celebrating Workers' Day, even if it's not exactly on this day. It fell over the weekend, but this is the first day of the work week, and that's why today has been declared a public holiday. All right. On the program this morning, the first part of the conversation, we will talk to the chairman of the Trade Union Congress, TUC, here in Edo State, Comrade Marshall Uhwe. He's going to be our guest via phone, and we will be talking about a vast variety of issues regarding Workers' Day and the Nigerian worker in the current economic dispensation. Do stay with us. We'll be back right after this break.
Particularly in Nigeria, with this crop of political elites, have been a very thorny issue. Elsewhere around the world, workers are celebrated. Workers earn a living from creating the wealth. Just a few days ago, at the eve of the May Day, you will recall, President Biden, despite the difficulty, approved the minimum wage to be reviewed from $7.25 per hour to $15. But here we are in Nigeria. Some of our political elites are saying that a worker does not deserve 30,000 naira. Some of their allowances, newspaper allowance alone, is more than 100,000 naira per month. This is the injustice. It's a class injustice. Some of them work less than 40 hours per week. Yet we have workers that put in their best. Some have even paid the supreme price, fighting COVID-19 to protect all of us. But yet, in some states, they were the first crop of people that their salary had been cut. They are sacked at will. That is why our country may not know peace except there is social justice. And the foundation of labor globally, after the First World War, that is the Philadelphia Declaration, is that there cannot be peace without social justice. And therefore, we will try to insist that the worker is not a slave. Even artisans, even daily pay laborers, you negotiate with them. You don't impose a pay on them, you negotiate. And that is the concept of the minimum wage globally. We negotiated the 30,000 naira. 6 governors were representing each geopolitical zone. There was a public hearing in all the geopolitical zone. And you recall, most of them said, well, once federal government implement, we will implement. But here we are. Today, more than 1/3 of the states are not paying. Some actually implemented only for level 1 to 6. So it's not also about lack of resources. It's about whether they are committed to workers' welfare. If not, how can a state like River be discussing minimum wage up till now? So this is the real issue.
All right, welcome back. Of course, that was Ayuba Wabba, the chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, speaking passionately right there on the occasion of Workers' Day. But this is Edo State, this is Benin City, and our own primary constituency. And just like I did promise, we have a Comrade Marshall Owe, the TUC chairman in Edo State. Welcome, Comrade. Good to have you here.
KUFM, you're welcome. Good morning.
Thank you very much. So, quickly, we are celebrating Workers' Day. What is the significance of this celebration to the Nigerian worker and workers in general worldwide?
Yeah, before today, it was very, very significant. But as I speak with you, it's more or less significant compared to the way it was before. It's a day to commemorate where workers were liberated from the shackle of the oppressors. That was why we commemorate, and that it becomes significant. But it's also supposed to be a day where we take a review of the past, the present, and look to the future. But as I speak with you, we can only see the past, but the present is not to right on me back. I does not even have an idea of the future, how it's going to look like.
Wow, very strong words there. Very strong opening remarks right there.
All right, let's now get talking. Yeah, celebrating Workers' Day. Let's recap some of the achievements of the organization, which is TUC. You guys are out there looking out for the welfare of your workers. And since last year we celebrated, after 1 year, what have you achieved as a union concerning the welfare of your workers?
If you talk of union, you should be able to break it down into different facets. We have the national and we have the state councils at a national level. Towards our state councils, we've been able to hold our news. We've been able to prove that we have the ability to hold anyone responsible who intends to subject worker under any circumstances, and that we've been able to do in Edo State. As I speak with you, like in Edo State, the minimum wage is fully implemented in Edo State right from the onset. The governor himself cooperated to this effect, and he did not actually give us much time to ensure that this thing came on board, because before the advent of the minimum wage, he has repeatedly said he's going to pay, and as soon as this thing came on board, he immediately implemented it. In Edo State, promotion is even up to date. Yes, as a human being, our blood flows in our vein. We cannot be 100% in every other aspect of it, but as I speak with you, we are okay. We are okay.
Okay. All right, and we need you to clarify something about this labor union, both TUC and NLC. Now, people have this perception that you only fight for the welfare of public sector workers. I need you to break it down for those of us that are working in private sectors, and we also have welfares that should be addressed when it comes to matters that affect the workers. How do you get involved with private sector workers and make sure that their welfares are being secured and met by their private organizations?
To us, labor is labor, workers is workers. As I speak with you, we're also looking at the public sector. We also look at the private sector as well. As I speak with you in terms of the minimum wage, when minimum wage was coming on board, a joint committee was set up, made up of both private and public workers. At the end of the day, they all sat at that table and agreed that this is the amount that private will be able to afford, at the same time the public sector can also afford. There is no way we can pursue that of the public sector without carrying along that of the private sector. So to me, it's not totally true that the private sector is not being carried along, because most times an issue that encompasses all is being discussed, private is involved. Take for a minimum wage, for example, it was a joint committee that was set up. There is no way government can implement a minimum wage without carrying the private sector along. So the joint committee was set up involving the private sector and the public sector. They all met together and agree on this sum today will call minimum wage, which is the frustrating 30,000 naira that is being paid to the workers of Nigeria today. It's quite unfortunate, as you just said. I said to you just now, the national and the state, at the state level, will be able to vote ourselves, but I really don't trust labor at the national level they've not actually been able to hold themselves the way we expected. But be that as it may, life goes on, and we just decide to flow along until it goes on.
Now, before you got talking, I don't know if you heard the sound bites from Ayuba Waba, who was complaining bitterly that ever since the new minimum wage was signed into law, so many states have refused to implement. Some states have only done what is called partial implementation, that is level 1 to level 6 alone, and even states like Kanu have even reverted to the old minimum wage. And he was saying no, that maybe it's time for the workers to go back to the trenches and begin to fight once again for their rights to the minimum wage.
I will not allow you. I will not just allow you to finish that because I did not have the patience to actually wait. It's not laughable that somebody like Ayuba will go to air and say, "Some city government have no pay, some city government have paid for how many, for how long, and for how many years now?" And you are there sitting in Abuja, says, "Governor, what action have you taken?" I don't believe it waits any longer. We have too many leaders who make too much noise, who make too much talk, and do little or nothing at all. The same worker you say you fought for, the frustrating minimum wage that cannot even afford the recharge card or the bag of rice. You stand in Abuja and say one governor did not pay. What is your function and what is your responsibility as a Yuba? See, let me say something. You join an association, maybe a union or even a local meeting. In case anything happens, you can fall back to this to make a fight for you. If Ayuba can sit down and Ayuba say, Cross River have no pay, River have no pay, Kano have that, what action has it taken? Is it just to sit down there and begin to make unnecessary math? It's not people. Let Ayuba go and hide his face. Let him go and hide his face. I'm not going to say this. Ayuba is in this country where flood will increase 6 times within 3 months. Within the case of the minimum wage that states are not even paying. Yes, he sat down there. It's not.
So if you are not happy, if you are not,
let me finish. I don't want to discuss anything about Ayuba at all, or maybe at national level, because I want to have a limit. As far as I'm concerned, we should just go and bury his head in shame and stop cajoling workers and stop talking to Nigerians as if Nigerians don't know what they are doing. We should go and bury him.
No, if you are not happy, I mean, I was going to ask you, if you were in position at the national level, what would you have done differently? That's the question.
What I did differently in my state, I have power over my state, and as I speak with you, my state has fully implemented the minimum wage right from the onset to today, and they are paying so well.
I mean,
he has control over the national. Let me go and do the needful job the same way I did that in my state.
Probably because, hold on, we have to look at this in a more holistic manner. You are in a state where, let's say, the governor has complied fully. I mean, if the governor refused to comply, what would you have done? That's one question.
I know what to do. I know what to do. You don't joke with them, you don't mess with me. If the government refuses to pay, that is why I'm there to represent workers. I swear to an oath to defend, and the objective of every leader is to protect and safeguard the interests of workers. And that is what I swear to, and that is exactly what I would have been able to do. If you have refused to pay, I will march into the streets. These are not the days for prayer. The problem we have is not being able to match every action of government with equal and opposite reaction. And when those reactions are not matched, this is what we see. Gone are those days when you sit down in the office and begin to make unnecessary noise. You begin to talk. We are not tied to the apron string of government. If my government has refused to pay, if we go into the streets, it is our right and it's our responsibility. It's not a privilege. It's a necessity that they have to do. They won't march to the street and take action. We are not like the national that can only talk and talk and talk. At the end of the day, they cannot do anything. It will not happen. My brother, it will not happen. I'm not going to say it will not happen. I also thank God for the type of government I have, who have been very, very cooperative, who have shown too much interest in the welfare of workers to ensure that every state worker move forward. We enjoy the cooperation, we enjoy all the privileges, and we still enjoy it. If it has gone the other way, we will also take action, my brother. We will take action and come back.
I mean, but it's a bit complicated here because some states have implemented, some have not implemented. Does it not weaken the position of the NLC and the TUC, if you like, at the national level? Are you going to declare a general strike, or are you going to declare a strike in those states that have not taken action? These are questions.
You don't need the general strike to press forward your demand. This is your state. And it has become a constitutional issue that every state should do this. What else do you need to go ahead and fight for a cause you believe and fight for a cause that you know is just? Let me tell you, When you begin to perpetrate injustice, when you begin to resistance will come into play. You don't need any society to tell you that constitutionally you have a right to do this, naturally you have a right to do this, and yet they are not doing it. You see the same government, they have series of comfort deploy, and they are not doing it, and you sit within the comfort of your office. My brother, you react. Of what use will it be to you that at the end of the day you didn't even talk, you are not paid? If you talk, you will not be paid. Does it actually make any difference? Why not talk and remain at home if that be the case? Every worker will support you. To the least worker, when it comes to the issue of payment, workers don't play with it. When you say still I'm at home, and it's a result of being not paid, or a result that the normalcy were not there, every worker will be still at home. And when you press the demand for what no government have a choice that will meet up with what you want.
It looks like these are not the best of times for Nigerian workers, considering COVID-19, economic recession, will I say inability or unwillingness by some state governors to implement the minimum wage and all that. I mean, Nigerian workers are forced to, suffer or weather the storms, all the storms I have mentioned and all of that. Is there any lights at the end of the tunnel for all these problems that Nigerian workers are facing?
You think that really make light available? If they did not provide the light, there won't be light. That is what is the issue. That is why at the process of selecting your leaders, you must think well of the leader you are going to put into play, because if you select a leader that does not actually have the issue of workers in their heart, everybody will suffer for it. The Nigerian I know today, no government of Nigeria has ever come out to sell is very, very rosy. That even if you say, oh yeah, at 1 million per barrel, the Nigerian government will tell you there is no money. And at the end of the day, you see politicians looking fat, both in their bank account, both local and international bank accounts. Even as you speak today, the workers are at the receiving end. If I'm a transporter, for example, we decide to increase the fuel, I will buy at any amount. I will transfer the body to the commuter. They will pay. But that of the worker, it remains static and remains stagnant. 30,000 remains 30,000. Even when the 30,000 can no longer take it to your bus stop, we are at the receiving end. We decide to be at the receiving end because our leader has actually taken full responsibility of what they're supposed to do. We just hope one day. We just hope one day. One day. Just as I said in my midday speech, so long as we die, liberty will never perish. And that is my belief.
On the occasion of this year's Workers' Day, is there any message of hope you have for the Nigerian worker?
Just the same thing I told you. Hope. It depends on the definition of hope. But as I speak with you, you know right there in your studio, if Nigeria getting better and Nigeria getting worse. How do we define hope? Today we're better than yesterday. You begin to see hope. But when yesterday becomes better than today, is there no hope? There is just no hope. In terms of security, no hope. In terms of welfare, no hope. There is just no hope in this country. We are just looking unto God. That one day, all those bad leaders will answer for the cost and for all the cost every Nigerians in this country. That is just the fact. And we are looking unto God and we are calling unto God. That is just the hope of every worker. Because there's no longer hope in me and there's no longer hope as far as Nigerian leadership is concerned.
All right, this is where we'll let you go. Comrade Marshall Uwe, Edo State Chairman of the TUC. Thank you very much for your time on the program this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, wow. You could tell that he was a very angry man.
He was really livid about the situation of workers nationally. That's what he's trying to say.
Well, I mean, this is, like I did point out, this is not the best of times for workers.
No, we have so many strikes. We have so many strikes already on the table, and it's just like they are not celebrating anything. They are just celebrating the fact that they are alive.
That's it.
So many workers have said, the paltry 30,000 naira minimum wage is not even compared to what
the minimum wage in Nigeria is less than $60 per individual. So it just tells you that things are not, the cost of living is going up, but the remuneration is actually going down. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, well, we're going to turn our attention to us, members of the press, and today is World Press Freedom Day. Stay with us, please.
So today, because the pockets or the earning power or purchasing power have not been very, very adequate, they remember some people are owing them. And the major is the government. But it's not all that bad as such, because I normally tell the workers, government is a continuum, we all agree. But these monies, these allowances were owed you 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The Buhari administration was born. And when this administration came, by some coincidence, prices of oil in the world market went down from $100 a barrel to $30, $35, $40, and even in more recent times during the COVID, $15 a barrel. And at one time, no buyers at all. So this period also, militancy in the Niger Delta, burst of pipelines, and the rest of them.
All right, you're welcome back. We've gone past the celebration of Workers' Day, which is also called May Day. We're now onto another celebration, which is the World Press Freedom Day. Now, this day is celebrated every year on May 3rd, just to commemorate journalists and also highlight the difficulties that we face while reporting the truth. And, you know, since reporting the truth is not an easy task, journalists, they always require, or they require, a degree of freedom, which is usually guaranteed in the constitution of different democratic nations. Of course, it's also included in our own constitution. But on this day, let's see how free, or let's get to hear from the NUJ chairman, how free journalists in this country are when it comes to reporting the truth. We're celebrating the World Press Freedom Day, and today we're going to be speaking to the NUJ chairman here in Edo State.
Of course, yes, indeed. We are going to make contact with Sir Roland Osakwe. Sir Roland Osakwe is the NUJ chairman, that is Nigerian Union of Journalists here in Edo State. Good morning, Sir Roland, and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
All right, happy World Press Freedom Day to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and you too.
Okay. Now, today's celebration, what is the significance to you as a veteran journalist and to all of us who are members of the press?
Thank you very much. Today is World Press Freedom Day. Every May 3 is set aside by the United Nations for the World Press Freedom Day to commemorate themselves against any tyrannic and oppressive government who have not allowed them to function properly. Then, two, to also rethink ourselves professionally and ethically what we have been doing to re-examine ourselves too. Then, thirdly, it's also a day at which we have to celebrate and commemorate those of our fallen colleagues who died at the cost of searching for story. This year's theme is information as a public good. Information as a public good, it will enhance every right of every citizen to ensure that there is good governance in any democratic setting. And at the same time, we call to affirm the importance of cherishing information as a public good and exploring what can be done in production, distribution, and strengthening of journalism and content to advance transparency and empowerment, while leaving no one behind. So this one encompasses everybody, that you and I, even all members in the group, as journalists, should be carried along, because of especially the countries that are into democratic settings. Countries that are into democratic settings, there must be accountability. So that is why this year's theme is quite apt, and it recognizes the changing trend in communication systems that is impacting on our health, our human rights, democracy, and sustainable development. So that is why today today's theme or this year's theme as information as public good is quite apt, and that we have to follow it to the letter. NUJ Edo State has put on modalities at which to celebrate it tomorrow, because today is a public holiday. The people we needed to meet in the office, they may not be there today. So that is why we have shifted it to tomorrow. So that is the essence.
All right.
Because
I hope you're done with your opening remarks, because I was going to bring the conversation down to Nigeria generally. We want to talk about press freedom here in the country. Now, for the year 2020, RSF, that is Reporters Sans Frontiers or Reporters Without Borders, ranked Nigeria at 115 out of 180 countries in terms of World Press Freedom Index. Quote unquote, it said, I'm taking a quote from that particular report. It said, Nigeria is one of West Africa's most dangerous and difficult countries for journalists to practice. End of quote.
I do not completely agree with them.
Okay.
Because if you look at the United Nations data, Nigeria is not listed among those countries that hated the press. Nigeria is not listed among them. The countries we have there are countries like Cuba, Russia, China, Vietnam, Boaz, and so many others. Nigeria is not among them. If you look at it, countries like Switzerland, Netherlands, America, the United Kingdom, and some others are the countries that have been rated high ranking when it comes to the accommodation of the press. The press is the fourth estate of the realm. We ensure that this is the only arm that does not have an allocation like other three arms of government. It is press, we have a difficult task. We swallow fire while we allow the people to drink water. This is the only press, I tell you, that we are doing all things possible to even merit what the executive, legislator, and other arms of government like judiciary are getting. But yet we are not getting anything. We are not mine, because we believe that it is a noble profession and it is selfless service. Nigeria FOIP has also underlined that all other equivalencies that will have been facing journalists, that we have it as a law. If you approach NTA and for a story or maybe for an information and they refuse to give you, you have the right to sue them in the court, and the court of jurisdiction have the right to say they must provide that information to the press, because it is already enhanced in our law. I also want to tell you that let me give you a brief history of this World Press Freedom Day. Nigeria, African journalists were mostly the people who started in Windhoek, in Namibia, so in 1991, to ensure that the charter is strengthened by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. So who now brought it to the National Assembly at the 26th session of the National Assembly of the United Nations, that World Press Freedom Day should be enhanced and proclaimed. That is why 3rd of May was proclaimed as the day today. Now, it was African journalists. Although we have some countries in Africa, some countries like Burkina Faso, where journalists who came without borders and every other thing have been missing up till now. But Nigeria has not been recorded as part of that country who are haters of journalists. I must tell you that although it is not too fair for Nigeria, but I tell you it is one of the best in Africa. So that is it. I quickly run down the historical background of World Press Freedom Day, how it came about in Windhoek, Namibia. Okay. So today we have also put our hands on deck to ensure that any molested journalist in the state will look at the root cause and fight it out to ensure that the integrity of journalists
is not jeopardized.
We'll come back to this in a moment. We'll come back to that in a moment.
All right, quickly tell us, comrade, how much is the right of a journalist protected in the line of his job? We've had so many journalists picked up or arrested for doing their job, and we basically see little or nothing being done when it comes to journalists who are arrested or picked up while doing their job. How much is our right protected as a journalist on this job? And what is the organization doing to protect journalists?
I've been on SADO as chairman Nigeria Union of Journalists in the past 5.5 years now. I tell you that since my tenure in office, journalists in the state that are molested, we are very proactive to it. I tell you that whatever the case may be, we first of all look at the root cause. Because there's an adage that we first of all pursue away the mother hawk, thereafter we blame our hands. So, in my tenure, journalists have not found it so bad. There were some journalists who were molested by the police at the time, at the cost of their duty. We went about it, and before we could know it, all the authorities hands were on deck to ensure that yes, what they have done was wrong, and they apologized to the member and to the NUJ in particular. Where journalists normally find it difficult in the state is when, at the time of election, when politicians will want to use some journalists against their opponents. So, I will be warn our journalists whenever such a period comes, not to swim in troubled waters. We are also sure that at the time of national assignments, maybe president or vice president, important things is coming into the state. We have also worked out harmony with the paramilitary organizations who will be on guard that whenever journalists is coming, nobody is hurt. But you must give your identification as a journalist covering that thing. So I assure you that I want to tell you that we have not found it so bad in this part of the country. We have not found it so bad. Like Saudi Arabia, when journalists are not allowed. You can still recall or chronicle the issue of Jamal Khashoggi, who was killed at the airport. Up to tomorrow, there is nothing we have heard about it. Where are the killers? They have not been brought to book. We also had the issue of the Egyptians arresting journalists and incarcerating them, Mahmoud and others. So you see a lot of these issues happen in all these countries, but we have never seen it happening in Nigeria, except maybe in the days of the military junta under Decree 2, when they will have the power to arrest a journalist and keep them in detention without any question.
Okay.
No, but Sir Roland, I mean, I want to bring very specific examples to you now, and these are examples that have happened within the past 2 years. In 2020, the governor of Ebonyi State, Governor Dave Umahi, was questioning a journalist called Chijoke Awo over a report he did about Lassa fever at a press conference. And at the end of the questioning, he ordered policemen to take him away. And Chijoke was arrested because of that. That is one. Also, two, on May 9th, 2020, the SSS raided the home of St. Miempano Onitsha in Bayelsa State. He's the publisher of Nigeria Live TV.
In Yenogwa.
Yes, in Yenogwa, yes, in Bayelsa State. He was arrested on the 9th of May. He was locked up. And eventually he was released on the 12th of May without any charges. And remember, our laws say you cannot hold somebody more than 48 hours without, of course, bringing the person to book. Charging the person to court and all that. We've had reports. We've had other reports. You know, in 2010, from 2010 till now, we've had about 5 journalists who have either been mysteriously either killed or have disappeared without trace. I mean, the most notable one is, of course, Dadiata and so on and so forth. So when you say these things don't happen, or you imply that they don't happen, I'm bringing specific examples to you. Journalists.
No, you got me wrong.
Okay,
I'm
please
not saying
correct
that
me.
Casualties don't sometimes happen in the country.
No, you
And
specifically said it only used to happen during the military junta decree 2, but I'm mentioning something that happened in Ebonyi State last year.
Okay, I said it is fair in Nigeria. The one you mentioned in Ebonyi and that of man in Yenogwa, not only that one, even the one in Kano State. I tell you, the union was up to it. The national leaders of this country, of our union, they rose up to that challenge and ensured that lawyers were hired by any UK money and to ensure that these members were free from incarceration. Can you still remember that of the one of Yenogwa, when our president personally moved for the release of that of that our colleague? So I said in democracy, this democratic governance we are, it is a bit fair as compared to that of the military junta, where somebody can be arrested or detained under Decree 2 without taking that person to court or without any person questioning. That is what I said.
Okay. But is this a free...
So, I'm not saying that there is no casualty. In any profession, there must be casualty. But we first of all, that is why I said, we first of all pursue away the border card, thereafter we'll turn our hands. That journalists should not allow politicians to use them for their selfish interests that will cause mayhem, that will cause ridicule to their profession. That is what I said.
I mean, I have to go back to Ebonyi State one more time, and I know we interviewed you here on this issue where the governor was saying something like, if you think you have a pen, we have the kubuku, and we are going to use it on you if you write something we don't like, something of that nature. I am sure you are aware of that.
Isn't that
is that not a threat to people who are operating in states like that?
Okay. Do you know the position of the journalist now?
No, we're not.
You may not know the position. No, I'm not asking you a question. It is an apparent interrogation.
Okay.
The position of the journalist now, because when that issue happened, it was like a press war against the Governor Umahi. It was a press war against Governor Umahi. You can also recall the one that happened in Calabar when Fani Kayode wanted to, molest a journalist.
Yes.
You saw what happened, where you have to come up and make a public apology. So it became that issue that happened in Ebonyi. Umahi and the journalist, who lost and who gained? It is Umahi that lost and the journalist gained. Because the journalist was merely doing his job. He was merely doing his professional job. So what I'm trying to say is that that issue was dealt with by our national secretariat. I'm not saying that there will not be casualties, there will not be fracas between the government and journalists. But whenever such issues arises, wherever it arises, the journalists always there. Because everybody will team up in the country and go against that insurgent that will want to bring the name of that journalist to ridicule.
Right. So we must sincerely thank you here as Roland Osakwe, NUJ Chairman, Edo State Chapter. Thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you very much. I want to quickly use this opportunity to call on all our members to come to Press Center tomorrow morning by 8 o'clock to get their t-shirts and caps so that we'll go out for a rally. Today we are not going out for a rally because today is a public holiday. So we will go out for a rally to commemorate our day tomorrow. I want to thank you sincerely for this, for listening and calling me for this chat on your medium. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, and have a wonderful day ahead. All right. Okay, that was Sir Roland Osakwe. Yeah, I mean, he's been the NUG chairman for a little over 5 years now here in Edo State, and
he was basically speaking for Edo State. I understand him. You know, when it comes to the journalists here in the state,
the state is relatively peaceful. When it comes to,
yes.
We have a governor who's
media friendly.
That is the word. You know, so I had to specifically give the example of the Ebonyi State governor because the Ebonyi State governor is notorious for I mean, his utterances towards members of the press. There are things that people feel like, why would you say this kind of things to members of the press? So
the truth is, the government, they do not accept criticism.
Some governors.
When I mean the government, I'm not really saying, okay, this governor, this particular governor do not accept criticism. As you have seen, okay, majority, let's just say majority, they do not accept criticism. They see criticism as, you're not supposed to say this.
Enmity.
They see it as enmity, trying to bring them down or anything. So they go all out to fight against criticism and thereby ending up arresting journalists who are, willingly doing their jobs.
Well, we know that the job of the pressman is not easy. I mean, I had a very terrible experience years back when I was covering an election in Anambra State in 2017. I literally had to run for my life because, in the line of duty, stuff happened and people feel like, okay, this person is trying to expose our shenanigans, and I had to flee. But that's a conversation I'm going to share some other day. Okay, let's check out some of the messages we have here. This one says, good morning, KUFM. Okay, this person is trying to criticize journalists and he's talking about brown envelope syndrome, and he says proprietors and sponsorship remains the bane of true journalism practice in Nigeria vis-a-vis press freedom. Some of the journalists themselves, in my own assessment, are not even ready to be free. The integrity of the practitioners are always called to question. Nelson from Otote in Benin City. Nelson, while it is true that in every profession there are those who are not there are always bad eggs in every profession. I think I'll put it that way. But the majority of journalists in Nigeria actually try to do their jobs with integrity and honor. Okay. In fact, this morning before I walked into the studio, I heard someone say journalists are more patriotic than politicians, and I like to think that is most likely the truth. This message says, I am pained that some journalists have poor use of tenses. Okay. This is Osa from Ugbo. Oh well. It happens sometimes. It does happen. And the last message here says, good morning to you, Charles and God's love. I am Lagos Manoron Saye from Ego Axis. Happy New Month, Happy Workers' Day, and Happy World Press Freedom Day to you all, together with all the pressmen around the globe. Ride on and continue your good job to the masses. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much, Lagos Manoron Saye. Thank you very much. Let's check out the WhatsApp before we go. We are pressed for time right now. And this one says, okay, sorry, it's not for us here. All right, thank you very much to all of you who have sent in your messages, and we appreciate every single one of you. This is where we end this morning's edition of Dialogue. Okay, have a wonderful day ahead. My name is Charles Oporum.
I am God's Love Orlando. Good morning.
Lady T. How you there now? You not go open shop yesterday. What happened?
Hey, lucky my brother. I go register for adult education class. I no fit sit down make I no sabi read and write now.
Sure, women follow for adult education.
Dead, yeah. Plenty people full there. Man, woman, they come they teach us to read and write. Some people they learn how to do hair, sew clothes, do carpenter work, mechanic, welder, electric, plus many other hand work. All of them now for free.
Bros, now to talk who? Me say if I go there yesterday to register too. Oh, beleo. So come on, they fit register all people like me. Now where you all do rich self? Even Papilo when be 50 years, come there to learn ABC. Papilo? Yes. I beg if na so, show me the place to go register. Oh, no, like better thing. Make you go learn one handwork today to improve your life. Go register for Adult Education Center when near you. This message now from the National Commission for Mass Literacy, Adult and Non-Formal Education, NMEC.
92.7 KUFM. From Benin City to the world.
This is 92.7 KUFM News Update.
Welcome to KUFM's News Update at 10. I am God's Love, Orlando. The Ado Museum of West Africa Art, EMOA, backed by the Governor Godwin Obaseki-led administration, has gotten a major boost with German authorities committing to return the first of artifacts in 2022. In a joint declaration, Germany's Ministry of Culture, state ministers and museum directors committed to return Benin bronzes taken by the British Army in a raid on the Kingdom of Benin in 1897. The first set of the bronzes are to be returned in 2022. A former head of the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Ambrosali University, Ekpoma, Professor Sadolo Odia, who was abducted by gunmen last Thursday, has been released. The wife of the professor, Dr. Amaibure, confirmed on Sunday that her husband was released by the kidnappers on Saturday and that he has since reunited with his family. Professor Odia was said to be on his way to his farm at Egoro, Ekpoma on Thursday morning when the incident occurred. The Department of State Services has warned individuals and groups against utterances and actions that threaten the country's peace and sovereignty. Its spokesman, Dr. Peter Afunaya, said in a statement that there was an agenda by subversive and hostile groups to throw the country into anarchy. He condemned the unsavory statements by misguided elements who have continued to threaten the government, sovereignty, and corporate existence of this country. President Muhammadu Buhari says the federal government is determined to strengthen the secondary healthcare sector and reform the tertiary health institutions across the country. He commended the resilience of Nigerian doctors, noting that they continue to rise to the challenge during disease outbreak as witnessed in the coronavirus disease. The president implored the support of Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, in the revitalization of the health sector to deliver a system that is responsive to the needs of Nigerians. Non-teaching staff of public universities have threatened to resume their suspended strike over failure of the federal government to implement the agreements reached in the Memorandum of Action signed in February. The leadership of the university workers said they are under intense pressure from their members to resume the suspended industrial action following the failure of the government to stick to the April deadline to implement the Memorandum of Action. The JAC of the non-teaching staff of universities comprises the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and Non-Academic Staff Union of the Universities, NASU, had suspended their 3-week strike on February the 26th to allow the federal government to address their grievances. Finally, on news update at 10, the Akwa Ibom state government has called for continued relationship between host communities and companies operating in their areas. The State Commissioner of Power and Petroleum Development, Dr. John Etim, made the call in Uyo. He stated this at a capacity building workshop tagged Sustainable Community Development Planning and Management for IFIAT and MB stakeholders recently. And that's KUFM's news update at 10. I am God's Love Orlando, saying thanks for listening and good morning.
KUFM.